And one of the most dangerous feelings is the feeling of isolation. Not the type of isolation that you opt into, but the type of isolation that you feel you were forced into. The feeling of not being understood, the feeling of feeling abandoned or alone, not being able to connect, right? These are very dangerous feelings because they put us in a hole. They put us in a deep, dark hole. And in that hole, we experience things like depression and anxiety. And a lot of us give up hope for life. That's why in the past couple decades, the suicide rate has jumped nearly 30%. And that's a low estimate. And so I want to talk to you guys about something that I've witnessed change the lives of others and change my life. And that is the fundamental understanding of reach. Now, reach plays a fundamental role in pretty much every aspect of our lives. When we meet new people, we reach for the handshake. For the people we love, we reach for hugs. Right? The things that we desperately want, we reach, right? We reach for the top shelf. We reach out and grab what we want, right? When we hear motivational speeches, it's all about reaching your dreams, reaching your goal. When you're a baby, right? You want to be held, you want to be picked up by your parents and loved. You reach up, right? Even in regards to technology, whether it be your cell phone, talking to somebody on the other line, or your Wi-Fi connection, watching your favorite person on YouTube, right? In order to receive the message clearly, you need reach. Because if you're too far away from that signal, you just ain't gonna get it. It affects us in every aspect of our lives. This is why it's so important to understand how reach operates. And so to get this point, I want you to think of yourself as both the radio and the radio station. Because all day long, you're sending and receiving signals. You're sending and receiving a frequency. Some of us send out a very powerful frequency. Some of us send out a very weak frequency. Very low frequency. And when you're sending out that low frequency, you're sending out that low signal, it's very difficult to connect. And this is where the struggle happens. And so I want to share with you how I've discovered this and how it changed my life. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my childhood. So I grew up as an only child. And so some of the perks of growing up as an only child is having all your own toys and your own video games and having your own room, right? And plenty of space to yourself. Or at least that's how I grew up. I had the luxury of growing up that way. But some of the drawbacks of that is the fact that all of that time and space to yourself, all that alone time, turns into isolation. And that isolation over time becomes pathological. It turns into social awkwardness, right? It can breed a lack of self-esteem because your reach is weak because you haven't developed it, right? You haven't practiced it enough. And so when you're socially awkward, you have a very difficult time connecting to others, to connecting to your peers. Now, when I was a kid, I went through bullying and learning to fight back and defend myself and all of that. And the fighting developed anger and aggression, right? It also fed my ego when I won those fights, right? So I was socially awkward, kind of angry, little egotistical, right? These unfavorable traits. And being that only child, there was also a bit of selfishness there too. And so as I got older, right, the social awkwardness got worse. Because as you get older, you need to socialize more. You can't just go home and just spend all your time with your parents and have them love you. You got to claim the respect of your peers. You got to communicate with your peers in order to get what you want out of your space. Because as human beings, we're cooperative. So we don't just survive on our own like that. We need other people. And I'm from New York, so it's definitely overcrowded. So if you're in New York and you're socially awkward and your reach is short, you're gonna have a hard time. And so as you get older, you go through things like dating, and ooh, that was a pain for me. Connecting with women was hard when I was socially awkward. And I didn't start developing a social life until I was like 14, 15 years old, really 15, 16 years old. And it was pretty bad, right? Even to the point where the people who liked me, I didn't feel comfortable with people coming up to me and hugging me and giving kisses on the cheek and stuff. It was very personal, very invasive, right? And of course, over time, as in my teenage years, I learned about being an introvert. And I identified as an introvert. I kind of took comfort in that identity of being an introvert, right? Oh, well, I'm just an introvert. I don't do all of that, right? Socializing is just exhausting. People just in your face, right? And so that was my identity socially, was being an introvert. But of course, identifying as an introvert, it can become pathological also, because you don't work on your strengths. You just accept that you are this thing, right? Now, in my 20s, I became a little better at socializing, right? But I had to make a real conscious effort to do it on purpose. Like when an airplane pilot gets in the cockpit and they got to check all the systems and the hydraulics and everything like that, make sure everything is working correctly before takeoff. That's what I had to do before getting into social situations, right? Make eye contact, smile, reach out, palms up, shake hands, raise your voice when you talk so people hear you and they look at you, right? All the little tactics that we do socializing, right? What not to say to women, what to say to women, the difference in how you talk to men versus how you talk to women, all that type of stuff, right? How to talk to women you don't know so you're not all creepy and stuff like that. And learning all of this was an extremely difficult and painful time, because when you have to develop social skills so late in your life, it's painful. For example, being in group situations and everybody's talking and stuff and they're talking about different things, and when I would try to talk and interject into that conversation, I felt invisible. Sometimes I would talk and people wouldn't respond or wouldn't look at me, and I felt like I had to yell people's names. Hey, listen to me. Right? And sometimes that upset me so much that I would withdraw. And I'd just go home and just be like, I don't feel like doing this socializing stuff anymore. It's too frustrating. And I had to go through the pain of that. And of course, in my early 20s and mid 20s, I got a lot better at it. But it was a conscious effort. And some of the things that I did, I even did stand-up comedy. I threw myself into the lion's den there, right? Put myself at everyone's mercy and got on stage and told jokes. I had a sense of humor, and some people thought I was funny, right? And it taught me very valuable lessons, right? It taught me about reach and developing these social skills and everything like that. Taught me a lot about reach, but I didn't understand reach really until like 30. That's when I really understood consciously of how reach works and why it's so important and how to develop it. And so there are certain things that you can do by yourself in your alone time that will turn your conscious effort towards social situations into a subconscious one. It makes it more natural. You don't have to be that pilot in the cockpit. Like, oh, okay, check this, eye contact, smile, You don't got to do all of that. You don't have to be fake, or say that's perceived as fake. Like, oh, you can't just go into a social situation and just talk to people. You got to do this thing and put on a face. You got to put on a game face and implement strategies. It's too much work. But you can make a conscious effort to reprogram your subconscious, and that's really what you're supposed to do. And this makes it a lot easier. And then you don't have to grapple with, oh, well, I'm an introvert, so I'm limited in this way, and that's just how it is. No, you have the ability to extend your reach limitlessly. And so let's talk about that. Now, in order to understand reach, you got to understand that it is a physical attribute. It starts in the body and then transfers to the mind. Right? Literally, that's what reach is. It's a verb. It's a physical action. But it can be metaphorically also. But really, it all works the same. Whether you're trying to reach for your personal goals, right? Reach your dream life. Or you're trying to reach someone you love. Or you're trying to be in a loving relationship and you need to reach that man of your dreams or to reach that woman of your dreams. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you need to reach new customers and new clients in the marketplace. It's all reach. Whether you're reaching for a handshake or reaching for a hug, it's all reach. It's all the same thing, but it's a physical attribute. It starts in the body. And then the mind adapts. And so naturally what we do in today's society is we wake up and we're in our head. And we scramble and we get dressed and we head out to work. And we're in our head the whole time. Oh, I got to be at work on time. I got to do this. I got to do that. I gotta. In your head. And then when you're dealing with social awkwardness and things like that, and you find somebody that you're attracted to and you try to talk to them, but it's difficult because you got all the little voices in your head, right? You get that voice in your head that says, they're not interested in you. You're not good looking enough. You're not confident. They're probably with someone else. You're not ready. All these little voices in your head, right? That just talk you out of reaching for what you want. And if you try to reach for something while being talked out of it, you're going to have short arms. But you don't necessarily need to talk yourself into reaching in that moment, because you can address and improve your reach by yourself every morning. And so let's get physical. Let's get out of the mind and into the body. Because being that reach is a physiological trait, being that it is a physical thing, check out yoga. Check out your yoga instructor, or if you know a yoga instructor. Lovely people. Everybody wants to be around them. They're relaxed. They're loose and open. They breathe deep. They look you in your eyes and smile. You just feel great around them, right? They have great reach. Why? It's because of what they practice. You see, in yoga, what do? Right? You breathe in deep, expand the lungs, expand that rib cage. Open up your chest, open up your heart, reveal your heart. Right? Stretch, reach, open up. Mobilize those hips and those shoulders and the neck. Right? Drop those shoulders. Let go of the anxiety. Let go of the depression. Let go of all the worry. Let it go. That's what yoga's about, right? Just breathe deep. Be present. All the stuff that's in your mind, silence the mind and get into your body, right? That's what it's about, and it's beautiful, right? And it's all the rage. Well, that's why. Because we want to feel that way. We want longer arms. We want a greater reach. We want to feel at peace. We want to be present. We want to have that. But it starts in the body. And so when you wake up every morning and you practice literally reaching and opening up and moving and being free, when you practice that every morning, it does something to you up here. Changes the way you think. You become it. What you do physically becomes a mindset. This is how powerful this is. And so each day of your life, you're being conditioned to think a certain way by physical responses, right? Imagine when you hear a gunshot. Bah! What do? What's the response? Right? The shoulders are forward. The neck is all jammed up. This is all tight up in here. These traps are all overactive. The chest is in. Now imagine when the pressure of every day of your life feels like how that gunshot sounds. You just end up being like this all day. You end up being like this. You see people with this posture? Maybe you have this posture. Now if your neck is all jammed up in here, that leads to chronic headaches. Headaches every day. Oh, headaches. Oh, tension headaches. You got a stressful job. Tension headaches. But look at your shoulders. Where are your shoulders? When people have panic attacks and difficulty breathing, look at that chest. Where's the chest? Oh, I can't breathe. Tight. All that anxiety, all that worry. It's all up in here. It's all up in here. You just feel choked up. You can't breathe. Just being smothered by stress. It's all a physiological response, day in and day out. Every day you're allowing yourself to be conditioned to be like this. And so physiologically, right, how it works is your brain sends signals through your spine, and those signals spread out through your body. Now, if that spine is jammed up, that signal cannot get through efficiently. That signal gets jammed up. And you have a lot of problems, right? People develop asthma, panic attacks, migraines, chronic headaches, digestive issues, all because they're all choked up in here. And so you rub your traps and it's like, oh, you dig in there, you feel all that tension. It's because you were conditioned over time to hold all that stress in there. And so waking up every morning and dropping those shoulders and opening up and relaxing and opening, getting into your body, letting all that stress go. It feels great. And then when you feel great, you respond to people much differently. You respond to social situations much differently. When you feel good, when you love yourself and you love being present and you breathe deep, right? That feels like love. That feels powerful. And people feel that from you because remember, you are the radio and the radio station, and so is everyone else. And so when you feel good and you look like you feel good, people go, oh, I like that. People recognize that. And next thing you know, this is improving your reach. Next thing you know, you're the same way you reach at home by yourself, doing your yoga, your stretching, whatever you do, and just opening up. Those turn into hugs. People want to hug you and you want to hug people. And you develop strong bonds with people. You make eye contact, you smile. You reach out for that handshake, palms up. People embrace you, they love you. You love them, it's all good. Your shoulders drop, you feel better. And when you speak, people listen, they look you in your eyes. Because you are what they want to be. You resemble that good, healthy, positive, strong frequency that they want to dial into. I mean, this is the key right here. That's the key. And so what happens is, what did you do? What's the difference? All you did was repeatedly, you put yourself into a state. You put your body into a state of long, infinite, powerful reach. Every morning, 20, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour every morning. And you become it. That's the key. Rather than trying to be all up in here and convince yourself to be a certain way in social situations, rather than doing all of that, put yourself into a state that naturally yields that result. Where you're calm. Because when you're not calm, people feel that. You make people nervous, right? Ladies, you experience that with that awkward guy that's not calm, and he comes up to you and he looks a little crazy. He's got all of this all this erratic energy and he wants to talk to you and you're like, ugh, right? But when a guy is calm and he just looks at you in your eyes and he smiles and calmly introduces himself, you don't feel threatened, you don't feel weary. Yeah, he's a chill guy, he's cool, right? We love chill, cool people with good energy. We love it. And so when every morning when you do physical things that calms you down and chills you out and raises that positive vibe in you, you're just more attractive that way. And if you're more attractive, people listen to everything you have to say. And when I started doing this is what changed my life. I changed physiologically, and that changed me psychologically. And that's the key.